What is happening in Florida versus what is happening in Colorado? Colorado goes completely left, as in persecution of Christians, taking away your First Amendment rights, also hurting the farmer. Things that we have been talking about, literally, they're putting into law in places like California, Colorado, Washington. Today we're going to talk about Colorado and what they just did. Also, then we're going to move to Florida. What Ron DeSantis just said about Doge and how Congress should be ashamed of theirself. Not only that, guess what else? Why everybody else is embracing crypto, not that he's not, but look what else he just said about precious metals. It's a game changer. Also, we're going to discuss Elon Musk departing the White House. He is now gone. His tenure is gone. And he did an interview saying he's pretty disappointed in the situation. He actually came out and said, I tried, and sometimes we may not succeed. There is some implementations of some rescissions going to the Congress, but do you actually trust the Congress to do anything? We exposed Taliban, and they're still getting paid millions a week. We've exposed this and this and this, no arrests made. So are they actually going to do something? We'll talk about Elon Musk's departure. And then lastly, we're going to discuss something personal to me. We had to call legal representation and call a lawyer for living a life that is how we choose to live. We'll discuss my personal story dealing with a lawyer, dealing with how we had to involve law because we chose to live a life different than most Americans. Let's dive into these stories today and a few more. This video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to themacs. Thank you so very much for being here today. We are going to talk about my personal matter at the very end of the video, so please stick around. This is not clickbait. I'm being honest to tell you this is exactly what's happening to me right now. We have been on the phone with a lawyer, sent letters dealing with this situation, and we'll discuss that in just a few moments. But first, let's jump into some of these stories because they all impact us, and the way we're living is why they're targeting us. So now let's jump into Colorado and Florida first. Colorado. Two new things just happened. First, just like, okay, they want to instill safety for the gray wolf. Now you're thinking, well, Colby, that's good. We need, animals not to be endangered. Here's the problem. Let's talk about the gray wolf and why it's, there's more to it just than saving the gray wolf. Colorado Democrats passed Proposition 114, mandating the reintroduction of the gray wolf. American ranchers are now seeing significant cattle losses due to wolf attacks. One single rancher said he lost $290,000 worth of cattle to the gray wolf and not being able to protect his herd. Now, why is this a big deal? Why is this a focus? Because what has been the war lately? The war on farming, the war on cattle, the war on your First Amendment rights, the war on true independence. Having meat sustainability is a big deal. Now that they've put this implementation in, you think it's to save the wolf. It's actually not to save the wolf. It's to hurt the cattle farmer, hurt meat. We're already at a time where meat is at the highest point of pricing. We're at the biggest cattle shortage since 1950. That's over 70-something years ago. And now, since Colorado decides to just all of a sudden introduce the gray wolf and protect the gray wolf, now farmers cannot protect their cattle. It says that cattlemen are now trying to take care of their herds as much as they can. At the same time, they can't hire enough people. They can't hurt the wolf if it comes towards their cattle. And now they're losing massive loads of cattle to the situation. Now, they may not be killing big cows. They're killing the calves, the replacement heifers, the replacement steers. This is a danger. Now, that's just one thing in Colorado. You may say, Colby, that doesn't affect me. Well, it should affect you because that is your meat and that is your food. But I want to talk about one that's even bigger. And this is kind of goes along with yesterday's Seattle situation. Literally, the war on Christianity is bigger than it's ever been. I want you to listen to this new story about Colorado. This is an op-ed from a local newspaper in Colorado. It says, Colorado just criminalized Christianity. Now what? It says, in a chilling assault of religious liberty, parental rights, biology, free speech, and Christianity itself, Colorado House Bill 2513-12, deceptively named Kelly's Loving Act, was signed into law by Jared Polis, the governor, on May 16th. This legislation passed a watered-down yet still dangerous form of represents a radical overreach of state, effectively criminalizing biblical convictions and punishing Christians for living out not only their faith but obviously truth with men, with women, and with their roles in society. You can't change that role, but for some reason, Colorado says you can. If you speak, your freedom of speech, if you speak against the thought of gender roles, if you speak against what Colorado deems as normalcy, if you speak your thought pattern on that, your free thought pattern on that, you could be punished by law. Now, we're seeing this in UK already. We're seeing this in France already. Literally, a lady just went to jail, literally for 2 years for a post on X. You don't think that's happening here? Look at Seattle yesterday. Look at how they said the Christians were to blame because of the Antifa mob at the Christian event. The Christians, it's their fault. And now Colorado passes a law that could criminalize you. Not only that your thoughts on biology, this goes to what I'm dealing with an attorney. How you school your children, how you teach your children. If you teach your children in a way that is very biblically sound, and that biblically sound goes against their narrative of man and woman, and their narrative of roles, and their narrative of accepting of all people, then you can be punished under this law. They call it a loving act. What it is hatred towards Christianity. Now that's Colorado. That's why you've got to get out of these places. Don't quit saying you're going to fight these battles. In Scripture where the disciple says, I'm going to shake off the dirt off my rug, take it with me, and go. You remember when the angels came to Lot in the Old Testament now, we went New Testament, now Old Testament. When angels came to Lot and his wife said, you've got to get out of Sodom and Gomorrah. You got to get out. Don't look back, go back. Don't look back, go. It's too sin-filled. We can't do anything about it. Now, I'm not believing we're going to see Sodom and Gomorrah again. I don't know. But what I am saying is there's some places that the evil and the sinister acts are going to be too much for Christians to stay there, or you're going to be in a risk of your family. Daniel was used in Babylon, no doubt. But why would we want to put him in Babylon if he could choose to get out? Right now, you can still choose to get out. Get out of these places. Let's talk about Florida. Florida just came out. DeSantis, I thought, nailed it. And I know a lot of people don't like DeSantis, but honestly, DeSantis is a threadbare conservative. He came out and stated that Doge cuts should be implemented automatically. He said, if you back Trump and you back what we believed as in this election, he said the House will lose its election coming up if they do not implement these Doge cuts. Now, it blows my mind that literally, what came out? We have all the scandals and all this exposure come out. I mean, Elon Musk is leaving the White House, and he literally left saying this, I tried. Now, why can't we say it was successful? Because these congressmen have been bought out. I love the fact, look, Mike Johnson came out yesterday and says, we are working tirelessly around the clock. And that's what he said. However, they took off all this week too. So how are they tirelessly working around the clock if they're taking off? You get Anna Paulina Luna and all these quote-unquote conservatives are like, why don't we take this up? Marjorie Taylor Greene, why don't we take this up? We are the spokesman for the Congress, and y'all better stick up and say, listen, we're not moving forward on any bill until Doge cuts are done. Do you realize we're still paying the Taliban $30 to $40 million a month? They said sometimes even weekly. And we exposed it. Sean Ryan exposed it. We've talked about it. And then all of a sudden, Doge brought it out. And still to this day, we're paying Taliban. Did you know Planned Parenthood is causing ramifications, and we talked about defunding them? Guess what? They're still being funded. So all this stuff about Doge is going to do this. Well, they've done their job. Now it's Congress able to do their job, and they're not allowing it to happen. We've got a judicial coup going on. And what Ron DeSantis was saying, look, we're not going to do that here. We're going to implement the cuts. And so they started doing some own budget rehashing themselves. He said, but if we really want to fix our nation, you've got to start with Congress actually wanting to get these Doge cuts in. He said, if they don't, they will lose the House. And then therefore, Trump will get nothing passed. It's already an uphill battle. Did you see yesterday that the judicial coup said that Trump cannot do a Liberation Day and cannot do tariffs again? It's up to Congress. Well, Congress ain't done diddly squat. So why do we want to leave that up to Congress? Why? Why do you honestly believe Congress is going to do anything to help us? So DeSantis is calling him out. You know what else DeSantis said? He is now implementing a policy where gold and silver are legal tender in Florida. He's also pushing against property tax. You talking about a leader. That is leadership on the state level. Mississippi's doing a lot of good things too. Their economic growth has been better than 48 other states. You know why? is because we are tired of the status quo. So when you live in places like Colorado and Washington and California, where there's literally hatred towards Christians, hatred towards homesteading, hatred towards farming, you wonder why it's time to get out of these states. At the same time, you see states like DeSantis literally calling out the congressman that he used to work with. Remember, he was a representative for a long time. And he's calling them out saying, if you don't do this, you will lose your job. And then on top of that, Florida, we're going to make legal tender again for gold and silver that you can utilize. Yeah, everybody's pushing towards crypto. That's great. But now let's go back to what made America great. What made the world currency important? What made the dollar established important was gold and silver. And he just said, look, we're going to do it. And guess what else? We're going to talk about property tax and getting rid of the property tax, because what you've done is actually just rented your land instead of actually owning it. That is what good leaders do when it comes to state government. Now, he's actually backing Trump here, saying, look, if you want to support Trump, if you really want to pass a big, beautiful bill, then you give his Doge cuts in. And that leads right to the other story with Elon Musk. Elon Musk is leaving the White House. And I don't know if he's on the best of terms. He's going back to run his businesses like he's done and been very successful. It's amazing how he is hated by so many for literally trying to expose who is taking your money. The left literally is so blinded. This is why we are fallen as a nation. Because people are so blinded and they trust their congressman more than they trust Elon Musk, who literally made no money and exposed the waste, fraud, and abuse. And the liberals will literally support their Congress, who is literally stealing their taxpayer money and giving it to people who shouldn't have it. And they're mad at Elon Musk for exposing what the congressmen are doing. It is mind-blowing. And I say the congressmen because they're the ones that's allocating this money. They're the ones that still hadn't codified the cuts. So you want to know why your dollar's struggling? You want to know why people live in cars now? 170,000 Americans are living in their cars right now. You know why you can't afford a rental property? You know why you can't buy homes? It's because your Congress keeps taking your money and frivolously spending it, which makes the debt go up, which makes the economy go down, which makes everything go very expensive. And Elon Musk said, we've got to fix this. He's literally leaving the White House, almost with his head down, because actually when people were thanking him on Elon, it was trending on Twitter. Thank you, Elon. Thank you, Elon. And the sad thing is you have the Democrats saying, good riddance, Elon, because he was exposing them. And that's why people don't like that. You know, when it's just like anything else. Evil in the darkness has no problem because it's all in the darkness. You can't see it. When a light comes in and shines the danger, shines the problem, then everybody gets mad, not at the darkness, they get mad at the light for exposing them. And that's exactly what we saw with Elon. Is Elon perfect? Is Elon actually a morally sound guy? Probably not. But he was doing something for America, and we should have embraced it. And it's so sad that even though we see the exposure of the dangers of how bad our economy is because of how they're spending. This ain't about Trump. It's not even really about just Biden. It's about the last 50 or 60 years that the Congress has wasted your money. And we just give it a pass. Like, oh, it's okay. No big deal. We'll just keep spending money and acting like we can just grow it on trees, and we can't. You know, they can keep printing money. That's true. But they're going to keep taxing you, and that's going to cause inflation to go up because they're printing more money. So therefore, you're the one that's going to take the brunt of the hit. And what Elon Musk did was just expose it. Now, he came out and said, look, I tried. Now Trump did come out and say he's sending a rescission package, meaning a Doge cut package to the House. But do you honestly trust the House to do anything? Just being honest with you. Do you honestly trust that they're going to pass these bills? Their big, beautiful bill did not even cut. We are $2 trillion every year in debt, going more in debt at a deficit, meaning we're still spending more, did not cut into that, but for like $100-something billion a year to $1 trillion over 10 years. So literally we're going to go into about $25 trillion worth of debt to cut $1 trillion. Does that make sense to you? That's what your Congress just did with this big, beautiful bill. I'm glad to see some senators like Rick Scott and what's the guy from Wisconsin, Johnson, they're starting to stand against it on principle. That's what I hope that they do. I hope they'll grow a backbone and quit being spineless and actually say we're not going to sign this bill when it doesn't cut enough and it keeps spending people's money. It's ridiculous. Now I'm going to end this video on a note that is more personal to me. I want to tell you what happened. We homestead, we homeschool. We live our life in a very different way than most Americans. I believe that's why we don't have a lot of friends, and we don't have a lot of confidants, and we don't have a lot of people that really believe like we believe, because they think we're probably nuts. Because literally, it was flooding this morning. I'm milking a cow at 4 a.m. We're literally going to castrate animals yesterday, and people think we're so strange. What we're doing is just trying to raise our family holistically and on good quality foods and raise them the right way. We got a letter yesterday. If you know, my son graduated. We did a homeschool graduation. He graduated, had a big event. We showed that on the Max Life video and also a little bit with Life of Colby Mack. And we're building him a home. He's going to college. He's going to do it online because, again, we are against the premise of college the way that Americans look at it. We believe that if you go to these colleges, it causes problems because they're not grounded in morals and values. They're grounded in pure liberal ideology. So we're doing an online class. So the school reached out. Aiden made higher on the ACT. He's done all his work. He's done very good with his homeschooling. We got a call from the admissions office and said, well, look, we see he's done great with his admissions. We see that he's did the ACT. We see we got this transcript, but what we can't accept this. And we said, why not? And he said, well, because you didn't go to some kind of schooling. You didn't go to a private school or a public school. You went to some kind of homeschool, and we don't accept this. Well, on the premise of state law, Mississippi state law, and this school is based out of Tennessee, both are reciprocating, saying that home education is okay. Now, this is a conservative state of Tennessee, and of course, we're in a conservative state of Mississippi. She said, no, sir, we're not going to accept that. Our educational department does not accept the fact that your son was homeschooled and does not have some accreditation. We want him to take some kind of, like a GED or some kind of high school diploma or go to some kind of accreditation, or we're not going to accept him. Now, my son made higher on the ACT than most of his friends that are in public school. My son made higher on his ACT than even his girlfriend who goes to public school. Nothing against them at all. My son made higher on the ACT than his cousins that go to private education. My son is more well-rounded and actually has a job and actually has more in savings, not from me, not from allowances, from working and saving on his own. Now, am I building on my son? Probably, because I'm a little biased. But my son is way more ready for the real world and college in his profession than 95% of probably kids coming out of school. So we argued this case. We said, look, we'd like to talk to your dean and find out why, what's going on. Well, luckily, they didn't accept him still. To this point, they have not accepted him. So we've been dealing with this battle. We haven't talked about it much, but I want to bring it to your attention because this is the war on Christianity, the war on the farmer, the war on homeschooling, the war on independence. We're all of that. So therefore, the war is always on people like me. So we're a part, and I've been paying for what they call HSLDA, Homeschoolers Legal Defense Association. It's like $150 a year. All the people that are in homeschool, that's part of our group. I was a treasurer for our local homeschooling group here, and I told everybody, and everybody's always said, look, you need to buy into this. It's worth $150 a year to be a HSLDA member. And I'm not paid by HSLDA, but I'm promoting them because if you are homeschooling or you're in some kind of private education, you need to invest in this. So HSLDA is a Homeschool Legal Defense Association that works together basically because we're membership. Everybody's paying in this membership for lawyers to represent us in these kind of situations. And we sent them Aiden's transcripts, his ACT. We sent him all the history of Aiden's work. And we told him, we said, this school is not accepting it. He said they have no legal right to not accept him. Even a private or public institution, under the state law of Mississippi and Tennessee, both these situations allow for homeschooling to be done and for the parents to sign off on his passing. He said, not only that, Aiden has a higher ACT score, actually high enough to get a scholarship at the school. So he said, why would they not accept him? So we literally called this attorney and walked through the steps. We had to get a letter from the school saying they declined my son to then pursue the lawyer so the lawyer could actually write a very powerful letter. And then, if they have to, litigate the situation to allow my son to go to school. Now, honestly, if my son can't go, I could care less. I honestly could care. I'm to a point now where it's like, you know what? I'm against the premise of schooling in general because I know my son is more brilliant than most of the kids coming out of public school and private school. There, I said it so bad. So, to be honest with you, I believe that my kids are more prepared. I believe that the people going to vocational schools and doing tasks and learning skills are way more prepared than the blue-haired people going to Harvard. There, I said it. But it's unfair that they're trying to persecute us because we chose not to allow our kids to go and be indoctrinated in public school or some kind of even private school. We chose to raise our children at home. We chose to make sure our kids are not dropped off for someone else to raise our children. And now we are getting persecuted for it. You wonder why this channel gets hit a lot. You wonder why we get demoted a lot. You wonder why I get the hate that I do. It's because we choose to live a life that actually spits in the face of what America believes in. What America tells you right now is women need to work outside the home. You need to go to college and get a 4-year degree, be in debt up to your eyeballs, and make sure that you are always paying the government to take care of you. You should always make sure that you believe in leftist ideology. Don't push your religion on anybody. You need to make sure that you pawn your children off on school systems so school systems know how to raise your children way better than you as a parent do. You need to make sure you eat McDonald's because that's good quality food. You need to make sure that you don't raise your kids in a church that is God-believing because, then they're not accepting. Like Colorado, we need to make sure that they are accepting of all people, no matter what. You need to raise your children the way the world tells you to raise them. Is that really what we want? Because we choose to stand up and say we're not going to live like that. Now we're having to hire an attorney to fight our battle. You don't believe that this is happening all over America? It is. The Christian concert in Washington, the Colorado situation, the fact that homeschoolers are being pointed out day in and day out. You know why? It all comes down to one thing: faith and values. Teaching our children the right way. My son, I would put up next to most, being more skilled, more smart, and know what's going on. Sadly, the school wants to hold him down. So we've involved the authorities. We've involved a lawyer. Now, do I like lawyers and litigation? I sure don't. I hope it doesn't come to that. I hope this strong letter that they're writing, and they've been very cordial and very nice to me, and they're saying they believe that the letter will work. But if it doesn't, do I then make my son go do all this extra testing? Or to say, screw it, I'm done. This is the reality that we will have to live in, guys. No matter what. Who's in the White House? Look, the judicial coup is real. The legislation is still not passing bills. The state governments are still basically harming us. Colorado, Washington, California, New York. It's time to stand up and wake up to the fact that if we're not paying attention, we're going to look back one day and say, what have we done? Now, we're not talking about war and all that today, but the escalation with Russia is getting serious. The fact that, the judicial coup is now taking away the power of the president. It's getting serious. We have to realize that the reason we prepare, the reason that we try to live sustainable, the reason that we're independent, the reason you have food everywhere that you see around me, the reason we do that is because we believe in something way bigger than what this world is telling us. That is our faith, our preparation of our children, being good stewards, and trying to live sustainable and want something different than what the world can give us. That's the truth. Guys, let me know your thoughts on all this going on. I just wanted to share our story with you just so you could be aware of it. If you're homeschooling or you're raising your children the way that we are, you better be involved in people like the HSLDA. You better be involved with other groups that are standing up for freedom, because the war is on, especially people like me. And it's going to keep on going on until we're willing to stand up as a whole and actually make our Congress and our leaders do something about it. Guys, let me know your thoughts. God bless.